Hey, what's going on, guys? Hope you're doing good. Welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be talking about why Darth Vader lost to Obi-Wan in episode 6, The Kenobi Show. Now, of course, it is canon that at that point when they meet on the Death Star in A New Hope, the time prior to that, Obi-Wan was the master and Vader was still the learner, and that was George's original canon. But I do think that there are some in-universe explanations to this as well as to why it happened at this point in time. Before we jump in, remember to subscribe to the channel so we can continue this Star Wars journey together, and leave a like on the video. It's massively appreciated and really helps out the channel, so thank you. So my main reason for doing this video is because I've seen some people out there that aren't too happy with how Vader lost and the fact he did lose to Obi-Wan in the show. But I actually think it makes perfect sense. So we haven't got to actually go back that far, just to episode 5 of the Kenobi show to start with, where we had them, Anakin and Obi-Wan, training flashbacks. Now in episode 5, Obi-Wan was drawing from them to work out Vader's next move and to counteract it to the point where the ship escaped and he outsmarted him. But if we also look at the flashback, Obi-Wan, even though unarmed, still won. He knows Anakin's flaws, he knows his weaknesses, and I believe he would have took that into this fight with Vader. Coupled with the fact that he's already faced Vader once before, briefly, and he did lose, but he was much less powerful than he is at this point, bearing in mind. So he knows his fighting style has changed. He knows he's based more on power now, and brute strength and his use of the Force. Whereas Anakin was more agile, he was a lot quicker. He was a much better swordsman than Vader was. Couple that with the fact that Obi-Wan has actually faced Vader already, although he wasn't very strong at this point in time, Obi-Wan. He did fight him, and he would have realized that the way Anakin used to fight is not the same as how Vader used to. Anakin was very fast, very agile, a bit like Obi-Wan is at the moment. But Vader, on the other hand, because of his limitations with his suit, he's a lot slower, but he is stronger. He is insanely strong, and he uses his brute force. So Obi-Wan realized that is a difference, and he would take that into the new fight. So he would work out the way to counteract that. So Kenobi actually changed his fighting style to one which is more offensive, as opposed to his usual fighting style, which is primarily defensive. And then you put that next to Obi-Wan's speed, which he still possesses in abundance, like he did in Revenge of the Sith, a speed that Anakin could cope with, which Vader really can't. And then I think he'd pull from what he knew from his time of training Anakin, that his attack is better than his defense. Anakin was very attack-minded, and we even saw that in the flashback in episode 5. And so therefore it's reasonable to believe that Vader would primarily be attack-minded as well. So if Obi-Wan allowed Vader to fight at his own pace and stayed on the defense, Vader would eventually break down Obi-Wan's defense and overpower him. Whereas if Obi-Wan attacks with speed and he goes for the attack, not only is he putting Vader on the back foot, but he's also fighting at an intensity that Vader can't cope with either. This is a great example of Obi-Wan picking out the flaws in his enemy's fighting style and exploiting them. Don't get me wrong, Vader is more powerful in the Force, but Kenobi is the better swordsman now. And with Kenobi prioritizing speed and offense, that's not leaving Vader a much opportunity to get away and use his Force abilities. Kenobi was up against him, going at him really fast. Vader just really didn't have the time to do much. So in a nutshell, it seems like Kenobi really worked out his fighting strategy for Vader to a T. And he came out of his own comfort zone, in effect, from his usual fighting style to go with one which he's not so familiar with, which is more offensive, but he thought that would be the best way to beat Vader, and he was right. He knew Vader would struggle against that way of fighting. Vader's very attack-minded, and why wouldn't he be? Because there's not many people that could stand up to him and defeat him in the galaxy at a lightsaber fight anyway. So he's usually fighting people that are less powerful and less skilled with a lightsaber. He's not fighting people like Obi-Wan every single day, so he wouldn't have to work on his defensive much. Then you've got another layer of this, one which actually isn't to do with Obi-Wan, it's to do with Anakin Skywalker. Now Vader at this point in time is still very conflicted. Actually, Deborah Chow has came out and said that at this point in time it is 50% Anakin and 50% Vader. So you can actually see the level of conflict that's going on within Vader physically as well, because when his mask is cut by Obi-Wan, you can see his eyes flickering between blue and Sith yellow, which is symbolizing his struggle between the light and the dark. Also when they speak as well, I think when Anakin or Vader says to Obi-Wan, I am not your failure, Obi-Wan, he's saying that to release Obi-Wan from the guilt that he's been feeling. I think that is really Anakin speaking to him before Vader quickly takes over and sets the record straight that he wants to destroy him. So I do think there is a part of Anakin in there that doesn't want to kill Obi-Wan. At this point, Anakin is mostly consumed by Vader, and Vader really, really wants to destroy Obi-Wan. And by doing that, would actually kill off more of Anakin, which is what he effectively wants to do. If we look at it overall, their fighting record is actually 2 apiece. 2 for Vader, 2 for Obi-Wan. However, I will point out that every time Vader has won against Obi-Wan, in that fight, he has actually remarked himself on how weak Obi-Wan is. If you think back to their fight in A New Hope and their fight in Episode 3 of the Kenobi series. So do you think if we actually had Vader closer to what he was in A New Hope, which is 10 years further in his journey as Vader from where we've seen him in the Kenobi show, so he's more attuned to the dark side, he's even more used to his new cybernetics, do you think he would be able to beat the Obi-Wan we saw in Episode 6? Let me know in the comments what you think on that one. That's really interesting. But I just want to put out there, even though Vader lost, Vader is definitely no chump when it comes to dueling. There aren't many out there that are better than Darth Vader with a lightsaber still alive. So he's still up there as one of the top, and his force abilities are absolutely insane. So he's no chump at all. I think it's just a case of it wasn't meant to be for him this time, you know, with his conflict within and how perfectly Obi-Wan must have mapped out the fight in his mind to actually change his fighting style to work against Vader. He picked out his flaws and he exploited them. And at the end of the day, that's what a good fighter would do. But let me know what you guys think on that in the comments. Remember to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Leave a like as well. It's massively appreciated. Really helps us out. I'll catch you in the next video, and may the force be with you.